Hello traders, this is Rich from TradeSight. This is the market preview for the coming session. This is going to be for Thursday, November 14th, 2013. We had a pretty strong session today, which I think was supported by some good market internals, so really not a lot to argue with as far as price action or market internals today. The trend almost closed too low. It closed at 0.53. Usually when you close 0.5 or lower, you wind up with the sympathy gap to the downside the next day, but we'll have to see. It's kind of right on the cusp, so I can't really make that determination. But we definitely saw some action today, I think from the unraveling of options ahead of expiration this Friday. Had the S&Ps higher by 13, NASDAQ was up 37, so pretty strong showing there. We're plus more than 1,000 issues on both sides, which is very strong on a closing basis. And we had that very low reading in the New York trend. Now keep in mind we closed at 0.53 on the trend, so that's going to be in our 10-day average now for quite a while. So we are going to be at risk of getting that overbought reading from the 10-day trend. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Well, let's first take a quick look at the pure price action and the patterns. All right, so let's start with the heavyweight. Here's the S&P 500 measured by the futures, of course. You can see that we did save ourselves here. At least the bulls saved themselves here by staying above the breakout. Today we had range expansion to the upside, pushed above all the previous levels, even intraday, and certainly made a new high close on the move here in the ES. All right, so here's a look at the NQs. The NQs still holding above that same type of a pattern. Note though that we didn't get the same space into a new high here as we did with the ES. So even though the NASDAQ outperformed the ES, we really didn't get that distance and that punch up into new territory as much as we did on the broad market side. We did make a new high close on the move, but as far as making a new high, it for technical purposes, it really just matches the previous high here. So there's still actually another breakout yet to be had if we can get above those areas on a closing basis in one of these subsequent sessions. Here are the NQ futures with the levels on them. Here's what we want to watch out for. NQs, if we do break out of this range and get above this and follow through this little mini breakout, we're going to have some resistance here at the 8-ace level at 34.3750. To the downside, Thursday's low is going to remain the real important level. It also is the gap window here that you see that's open on the chart. Moving on to the ES side. ES side, you can see you got that extra little push to the upside here. Got some pretty strong resistance coming in here at 1781.25. That's going to be the plus 2-ace level on the Murray Math box. It's going to be resistance. If we can take this out on a closing basis, we're going to frame shift this to the upside here, which would definitely be a positive development for the bulls. On the other hand, if we don't wind up taking this out, this could wind up being a very important area of resistance and potentially repel price from advancing any further. If we turn to the downside, 1750 is going to be strong support. That's the 8-ace level, and then below that, Thursday's low from last week is going to be very important. All right, so here's a look at the 10-day trend. We talked about that earlier in the report. We didn't close at that 0.85 reversal threshold, but we got a little bit closer to it. And the thing to keep in mind going forward is that very low reading of about 0.5 is going to be in this average for about 2 weeks going forward here. So that's going to be a pretty big deal. So be aware of that. If we do get that reading, then we're going to be looking for price to repel and reverse. The S&P TLT cross was positive today, with equities outperforming the bonds on a relative basis, but it wasn't strong enough to pivot this ratio to a new high. So we're still kind of grappling with that previous trend channel. So we really need to get a little better push out of this to get some better momentum and really make good on that little breakout of the S&P today. Right, before we move on and talk about the individual sectors, the total put-call ratio and most of the other major internal measurements are still okay and are not flashing an overbought reading. So I think probably the first thing that we're going to get There's always a possibility that we get a climactic put call reading, but it's probably not going to happen right around expiration. Though I wouldn't rule it out. Only crazy traders rule anything out for sure. The other thing to keep in mind, though, is that the first thing that we're probably going to get a reading in is going to be that 10-day trend. If we do get one of the classic overbought readings to flash, so taking a look now at the sectors today, ranked best to worst. All right, now we're ranked from top gun to the bottom gun. XBD, which is the broker dealers, was very strong. The housing sector was real strong today, and it's been kind of middling, just kind of muddling along in the middle. BKX was reasonably strong today, and the semiconductors were pretty decent. Dow Jones transports were all right, and the oil services and the oil indexes were okay. So they didn't really diverge there to the downside. Everything was fairly well bid for today. The only thing was the airlines had some merger news the other day, so they're kind of taking a breather now. They already had their big pop. The consumer stocks were kind of weak. The utilities didn't do too much, and the pharmaceuticals were kind of down on the list. But a pretty decent day across the board here. Keep an eye on the different counts here. We are getting fairly deep into some of these counts. Those are the secret counts and the Comer counts. A couple of those Comer counts are getting fairly well along here, so make sure you keep on top of those with your charts. All right, so let's start with the hardware index, the HWI. This is one of the key NASDAQ components. It's really kind of there's a lot of non-NASDAQ things that are in here, but definitely really kind of drives the bus for NASDAQ. I want to point out the levels that we're using right now. We finally closed above this 8-ace line. So now we're into the technically overbought area on the Murray Math box. So we're definitely getting up there as far as price goes. We're going to have some pretty good resistance at 1/8, and then at 2/8, if we can get all the way up there, we're going to have some real meaningful resistance. Broker dealers with a top gun on the day, pivoted up to a new high. Got a little room here before we get to that 8-ace level at the 150 area. We're also going to be getting pretty deep into this secret count. So if we get far enough into the count, then we're definitely going to be on guard for some kind of a reversal. So we've got levels and potentially the time and price lining up from the secret count. Let's take a look at the BTK. BTK broke out this little range that it was in the last couple of days to the upside. Still right at about the 50. Still kind of middling here. If it could definitely get up to 6-ace. 7-ace is going to be a little bit more important than it usually is because it's also going to be this prior high. Key resistance, or support I should say, remains at the 4-ace level here. Oil services index on the day was decent, but still kind of at risk here because we're really starting to have trouble here with this double top. If we do break out of this double top, that's definitely going to be pretty notable. At the same time, we could actually be forming a bit of a rising wedge here, so be on guard for that. It's still fairly immature, but that definitely could play out, so make sure you have that plotted on your individual charts. Dow Jones transports, getting deep in the count here. We're 10 bars up now. We're only 2 bars up in the setup phase, so we're probably really not at risk of this signal recycling if we can continue to the upside. XAU today taking a little bit of a bounce. We were 9 days down, so it really couldn't release to the downside again just yet. So kind of just hanging here. Don't rule this out tomorrow. Keep an eye on this. If we do see some upside here, we do have this 9 bars to the downside completed. We could easily get to the 10 and possibly the 50 period moving averages with any kind of movement, especially in the dollar. And finally, taking a look at the stocks here. Still have this double top in place. We still have an exhaustion warning in place from the seeker. The risk line is going to be the next resistance area. If we do break out, it's going to be kind of a hidden level at about 513.25, and then above that, 515.5 is going to be important resistance from the plus 2-ace level on the Murray Math box. Finally, we're going to have a 30-year auction tomorrow. Here's the TLT. Just kind of bouncing off of this 0-ace level, have this little doji day today. If the auction's well bid for, well received, we could see a move into this gap. So while the TLT usually isn't all that exciting to play, it could be tomorrow. So keep that in mind. All right, folks, as always, thanks for listening. This has been Rich for TradeSight.